I'm Jim Eskin. On behalf of Eskin Fundraising Training, it is my privilege and pleasure to welcome you to the 122nd nonprofit webinar to empower both professional and volunteer nonprofit leaders. I once remember the bigger than life Orson Welles was being interviewed, and he was asked, you act, you write, you direct, you produce. How do you do all these different things? And in his, his terrific voice, he said, magnificently. Now, Mitzi Perdue is equally multi-talented, but I think she's a little more humble. She is a prolific author, writer, speaker, journalist, and most importantly, a humanitarian and philanthropist. Her current top priority is healing hidden wounds, and she's focusing on the Ukraine. And I want to give her a few minutes to discuss that project. And Mitzi, let us again thank you for your vision and leadership, because I think when innocent people somewhere in the world are being attacked, then the rest of us are vulnerable. So tell us about healing hidden wounds. How'd you get involved in that? What's going on?
Okay, I got involved with it because when I last met you, probably before Truman, I was a farm broadcaster. Today, war correspondent. I've been in Ukraine 3 times. I've usually as the guest of the Kyiv Region Police, and I've written more than 100 articles on it.
By the way, I have to interrupt you. How close to military action were you in those 3 trips?
Can I answer it differently?
Okay, please do.
Military action, tell me if you would call this military action. Something like 10% of my more than 100 stories were written in cities under active rocket attack. Does that count as military action?
That counts. That's an A+, okay?
Okay, they were written in bomb shelters, the interviews were. And I can remember a memorable moment when I'm driving to a school. I'm actually being driven. A policewoman is driving me. And a police person was driving it, and my policewoman escort took out her iPhone or her smartphone, and she showed it to me. My hand is imitating a smartphone right now. And it looked as if there were like 40 ants crawling down the face of it.
Oh my
And
God.
she said, those are the rockets that are heading towards us in Kyiv right now. And like a minute or 2 later, she said, they're overhead now. And a few seconds afterwards, they passed us. So I think that can count as military action.
Yes. So tell us about your nonprofit.
Okay, Healing Hidden Wounds is the result of, as being a guest of the Kyiv Region Police, they're the ones who document war crimes. And I've interviewed literally hundreds of people who've experienced war crimes, but one of the more memorable. Yeah, and there's an estimate that 15 million people in Ukraine right now have post-traumatic stress or mental health issues of like panic attacks or sleeplessness or uncontrolled anger. And back to my very memorable interview that kind of started Healing Hidden Wounds, I'm interviewing a 14-year-old girl whose parents were like machine gunned down in front of her, and she watched them bleed out. And she's telling me this is a journalist, and I listened to her talk like this with a complete monotone as if it was happening to somebody else. And clearly she's having, disassociation. She's, it's not something you want to see in a 14-year-old girl. After she left the interview room, I asked Irina, the woman who was translating for me, this girl clearly has some severe psychological problems. Is she going to get counseling? And Irina answered, nope, not a chance. There's a war going on. There's millions of people just like her. There are no resources to deal with this. She's on her own. And that was the beginning of Healing Hidden Wounds, because how do you solve a problem when there's 15 million people and there aren't enough psychotherapists around, or even the beginning of it? We came up with the idea of emergency first aid, and it would be in the form of a YouTube channel called
Hmm.
Healing Hidden Wounds, and Irina interviews people with mental health issues as a result of the war. And she tells, what happened to them, how they got that way, and what their symptoms are. And I pair them with, we have in New York City, we have 65 psychotherapists who volunteered to be on camera and give them like 10 minutes worth of advice. They're not going to cure
I bet
anybody.
that's expensive time, by the way.
Well, actually, this is remarkably
I bet they're donating it, I know, but I bet
Oh,
if,
yes, yes. Oh, yes, because these are people who are like top of the
yeah,
line psychotherapists,
yeah.
but they are donating their time and they will tell, supposing somebody has, let's say, panic attacks. And this is the most recent one, the one that we did. This woman who, oh Lord, I mean, uh, she was raped over and over again. And that's just scratching the surface of what she went through. But right now, it happened a year ago. She was a prisoner, and while she was a prisoner, the guards would just have their way with her. She was completely helpless. She has panic attacks every single day. What could be like emergency first aid? And here's what the psychotherapist told, and it's on camera, him talking with her. It's they're 6,000 miles apart, but on Zoom they're talking. His advice to her was, nobody dies from a panic attack,
Hmm.
and realize that panic attacks, there's almost no panic attack that lasts more than 20 minutes.
Hmm.
And so when you're in the middle of it and the world is coming to an end, you think you're going to have a heart attack, your
Yeah,
heart's
yeah.
beating like that. If you just tell yourself it's not going to last more than 20 minutes, I've got 15 minutes left, I've got 10 minutes left, that will help you get through it. So the purpose of healing hidden wounds is having psychiatrists who have a lot of experience dealing
Yeah,
with different traumas, giving advice that can, again, it won't make the problem go away, but it can make it a little easier to live with. And
yeah.
that's what healing hidden wounds is.
Wow, that's such a wonderful, wonderful concept. And estimate how many Ukrainians do you think you all have touched?
We're in the beginning of this. So at the moment, dozens. Long term, I'm expecting millions. And the super thing is, people that I've talked with this about, like at the United Nations, say that this formula can help people from throughout the world.
Mm,
And here's something that I've learned that I find really exciting. There's a program, there's probably dozens of them, but the one that I know of, it's called VEED, VEED. VEED will do translations. It can
mm.
create subtitles in any different language. You tell the input language and you tell the desired output language, which means that this formula of having victims or people who are suffering from mental health issues, uh, they can talk with psychotherapists, and the language barrier is leaped over with the modern translation tools.
Mitzi, this is a completely unfair question, but I'm very good at asking unfair questions.
Go for it. We're
Yeah,
friends.
what do you project? What can we expect in the next 12 months? This has now been going on, what, over 2 years?
The
And
war's
I
been,
think, huh?
yeah, are we asking about
Yeah,
the
what do you
war?
project are going to happen? I mean, I thought the Russians were going to run right over them, and the Ukrainian people, led by, a charismatic prime minister, have you met him, by the way?
I came this close to it, but I became a victim of a poisoning attempt and I didn't get to meet him.
Oh boy. Oh boy. What was that about?
Let's see if I can tell it really briefly. The third time I went, I was told, uh, don't return to Ukraine because you're on the murder list. You've written so many articles that are really anti-Putin that you are on the murder list. Didn't take it seriously. Uh, but I was in a hotel and I saw two people by an elevator who my Spider-Man sense said, I don't want to get on the elevator with them. And I can't tell you how they acted, but that's just, the feeling in the back of your neck, don't do it. I walked away from the elevator. I came back half an hour later. They weren't there. I got on. They got on the second floor.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this at the time, but Putin has neutralized, and I think that means killed, more than 100 journalists. And the way they do it is they get the journalist in an elevator. One person bumps up against the journalist, the other injects them with Novichok,
Oh
and
my God.
they never know what happens. And I didn't know what happened
And
until
these, I bet this includes a lot of American journalists.
actually not so many. I know of European and Russian ones. I've talked with them. But
Okay,
anyway, I get to
okay.
my room and I'm having those terrible trouble breathing, and it's like a boa constrictor's making each breath shallower. And I know that I should roll over in the bed and call the house phone and say, "Help, can't breathe." I couldn't do it. I couldn't move enough. But I could still
Oh my God.
type. Well, I could still type on my iPad, which was on my lap. And I have a Polish friend, and I typed, "Help, can't breathe, room 407." And he called the front desk, and it happened that the airport emergency ambulance was right in the driveway, and they got there within minutes, and they injected me with the antidote to Novichok, which they have on hand because the drug lords in Poland and the drug lords from Russia are killing each other off as fast as they can, and Novichok is the way they do it. So the EMTs, the ambulance people, had the antidote, and I'm here to tell this tale. But I was pretty sick for like 4 or 5 days, too sick to travel, and
Mm.
I when I got home, an X-ray showed that part of one lung was completely
Oh my
collapsed, and I
God.
had heart issues, and I was told that I might even lose all my teeth. Fortunately,
You have a
I'm
pretty good smile for that.
well. Everything resolved in like a couple of months, but I did come pretty close to eternity. I mean,
Well,
if Marek hadn't gotten my text, I wouldn't be here.
well, we're so glad that God smiled on you. John Largent has flashed, if I can use that word, your website address. Tell our listeners how they can support um, healing hidden wounds.
Okay, the way to do it is it's a little bit complex, but contact me and I will put you in touch with the charity uh, that is taking care of it. It's a donor advised fund by
Very
UBS.
familiar with them. Yeah.
Oh, good. And they will just make sure that the expenses of like taping, getting the women to travel to where the studios are. I mean, they're not terribly expensive. We can do an awful lot for
Yeah.
with very little, but the impact is extraordinary. So if they will contact me, I will immediately put them in touch with my donor advised fund.
Fantastic. And thank you for carving time. I know you have dinner guests waiting, and we're looking forward. We're going to do a podcast interview with Mitzi. And Mitzi, spoiler alert, you are such a fountain of wisdom and experience and insights. We're going to tap you for a lot more on these shows and to help our brothers and sisters doing nonprofit work. Okay.
I will give you everything I've got. I mean, I love
I'll
what you're
take it
doing.
and I'll double it probably. I'll double down.
All
Mitzi, thank you
right,
so much. And I can't wait to continue reconnecting after the post Harry Truman days. Okay. Give me a fist bump.
a deal.
And now we're moving on to our primary subject matter expert who defies again a introduction. Let me just say, Marjorie Hope lives in Boca Raton, Florida, which is not chopped liver, but she truly is a citizen of the world. You know, there are more than 8 billion people who live in 200 countries, and her passion is studying and teaching how we all connect through our differences for mutual benefit. The culmination of her exhaustive research is the best selling book, Connectiplomacy, that we're going to talk about in detail. And right now, she's in the midst of a comprehensive media blitz, and she presents a compelling case on how similar we all are in achieving the fullest and best lives through the lessons that enrich our minds, bodies, and souls. I'd like to start, you know, they say an image is worth 1,000 words. John, can you put up the slide? I want you to start with this story because I think if you were to take, how many pages is Connect Diplomacy, by the way?
I believe it's about 374.
Okay. If you were to condense it, I think it's people are people. Okay. Can you give us a little background? Who's your friend here?
Okay, so this is when we were in Dubai and we were on a train and we had gotten lost. And a young girl came onto the train and she was holding the same pole I was holding. And I asked her questions about her culture, and she was really polite and didn't mind any of my questions. And her stop came, and as she left, I saw from the corner of my eye a sheik staring at me.
Yeah.
At first, I was like, oh my goodness. So I said
Hey,
to
by the
him,
way, was that the first time a sheik has ever stared at you?
well, I noticed in town they didn't seem very friendly or happy to me.
Okay.
So when I saw the sheik staring at me on the train, I said, I hope I didn't do anything to offend you. I wanted to learn about your culture. And he smiled and he laughed and he said, no, I just care about money. So I thought it was the funniest answer, and I laughed back. And then we talked about the people in the town, and he said, well, they're just not used to your culture. And remember, the internet is still relatively new. And so they really don't know a lot about your culture other than what limited. I thought that made a lot of sense. And I said, well, can I get my picture with you? And he said yes. And then he did the ultimate. I didn't realize until after the picture, he had put a thumbs up. And that made me realize everything I had been researching is that people are people. And
Yeah.
as different as we were from night and day, he recognized that, but yet recognized the respect of people.
Randa Luna is a nonprofit professional in Austin, Texas, and she provides generational and gender perspective to this show. And I think on Monday she begins a new position as Director of Corporate Giving and Special Events for SAFE. Can you take a moment and tell us about what is the organization SAFE?
Sure. SAFE, it's the SAFE Alliance, but SAFE is an acronym for Stop Abuse for Everyone. They're a wonderful organization that's sort of now an amalgamation of like a women's shelter and a children's home, and they've all come together to work towards this mission collectively, which I think is really beautiful. I was touched by the work that they do years ago, and I'm so glad to be starting my new employee orientation on Monday. I can't wait.
Well, I often say I don't care. It's like the first day of school, the first day of any job, whether you're starting down here or way up here, is the longest day in history. So prepare yourself for a long day. And she's going to be joining me in some questions. Marjorie, are you ready to get started?
I'm ready.
Okay. Tell us, why did you write Connect Diplomacy? I know personally how much time and effort you put into it.
Yeah, I wanted to emphasize the importance of embracing diversity as a catalyst for connection and understanding. And it was by celebrating our differences rather than fearing them. And that's how we can develop relationships and bridge divides, ultimately creating a more harmonious and inclusive world.
Okay, if I have this right, at last count, you've traveled personally to 12 different countries.
That's
You're a
right.
little you're a little ahead of me. Could you share a favorite story or two about one of your trips overseas?
There are many amazing, amazing memories, but I'll tell you, my visit to Japan, I participated in a traditional tea ceremony, and the intricate rituals and symbolism behind each movement, it kind of left a profound effect on me, highlighting the importance of mindfulness and appreciation for simple movements. Another standout moment, I guess, was in India when I volunteered at a local school and witnessed firsthand the resilience and joy of children. And they were in really challenging circumstances. But these experiences underscored the power of global cultural awareness and connection in enriching all of our lives and broadening all of our perspectives.
Marjorie, one of your major themes is that the 8 billion, count them, people in 200 different countries have so much more in common then what is different? Could you expand on that theme?
Well, the theme emphasizes the universal aspects of human experience that transcend cultural, geographic, and societal differences, but it acknowledges that while people may come from diverse backgrounds and hold varying beliefs, the customs they share, the fundamental desires, emotions, and aspirations, they're all recognized by our common humanity. And individuals can build empathy, understanding, and connection with each other by promoting unity and cooperation among cultures and borders. And also, this perspective encourages embracing diversity while celebrating the shared value and experiences that unite people around the world.
Okay, I know that you're in the midst of a media blitz, and particularly you've been doing a lot of podcasts, and you are sharing your tips on how people can lead healthier, happier, and more fulfilling lives. And I'd like to unpack some of your profoundly important advice. First of all, you declare, I take this as not literally, that people should eat a frog each day. What do you mean by that?
So, eating a frog every day is a metaphor, but it encourages tackling the most challenging or unpleasant task first thing in the morning
Really?
rather than procrastinating.
That's
Um,
like eating your vegetables first.
yeah, honestly, it emphasizes the importance of prioritizing important tasks, even if they seem daunting, unappealing, they're giving you anxiety, but it actually reduces stress and it helps you maintain focus throughout the rest of the day. You know, by addressing the most critical, difficult task early on, you can actually set a positive tone for the day. And I'd say take an hour. Some people do 2 hours, but get rid of all of that and then free up your mental energy for more enjoyable activities later on.
And you can say, I got that behind me, right? Rather than
Yeah,
waiting to
and you
five
don't always
o'clock.
finish. You don't always finish, but just put that on to the next
Yeah.
day
Okay.
and you're back
Hey,
to eating your next frog.
another one of your favorite expressions is the dinner table is where it all begins. What do you mean by that?
The expression the dinner table is where it all began. It emphasizes the significance of shared meals and conversations in creating connection, understanding, unity among individuals and families. And it suggests the dinner table serves as a central gathering place where meaningful discussions and exchanges or ideas and bonding can occur. We tend to not remember that these are family traditions, cultural exchanges. These are relationships that are important to our decisions, and they're shaped around the dinner table, making it a symbolic starting point for building relationships and strengthening connections.
Breaking bread, right?
Yeah, and thousands of years ago is how this started because they had to put their sword down in order
Yeah.
to sit down to eat their food, and that's how they started to connect with each other.
Wow. I didn't know that. I need some help from the millennial side of my brain. Randa, do you have a question for Marjorie?
Um, I'm curious about how, or what you know about how different generations get along with each other in other cultures. Because, here we really separate ourselves. We talk about millennials and Gen Z and Xennials and all the other ennials. So I'm just curious what you know about that.
Well, I think people make too much of that. People
I
are
do too.
people. And what I mean by that is we all have hopes, desires, aspirations, anxiety, fears. Those are human emotions that we all share. And I think you have to recognize the respect to every generation, which thinks they can do it better. And that's normal and that's natural. And sometimes that's true. So I think it's just listen to each other. And the most important of everything is respect each other. You know, when you look at that picture, we were as different as night and day in different. I'm a woman, he was a man, different ideologies, different religions, different backgrounds. But at the
Different
end of the
clothes?
day, yeah, different clothes. I mean, the different cultures. But people are people. We all eat. We all sleep. We all have to go to the bathroom. And these are basic human needs. And that's why everyone on this earth, we only have one earth. We only have one place to live. The
Right.
rest of it is just what I call semantics. It's just people have to recognize that we are all on this one planet, the only place we have to live right now.
You also talk about fear. That's something that we all know a lot of. You describe it as false evidence appearing real. Could you kind of unpack that a little more?
Yeah, well, fear refers to the tendency for our minds to create exaggerated or imagined threats, which we really perceive them as real, and we become fearful of it. The concept of fear highlights how it arises from misconceptions, irrational beliefs, distorted perceptions. The media is a huge one. But recognize that fear is often based as false evidence. Most of the time, you can challenge and overcome it. And it allows us to, kind of approach the challenge with courage, clarity, and resilience. Yes, it's there. It always has been there, but don't let somebody make it into something bigger than it really is.
What's your advice in overcoming fear?
You have to respect each other. When you're watching the media, for example, or let's say even something as simple as being on Facebook, the media can be a big problem because you think that they think the way you're thinking, and then you see a red flag, and you have to know, take a deep breath and step back. You know what's right and wrong. Don't let somebody else tell you. And we have a lot of that going on in the news. There's not a them and we, there's not a they're right, we're wrong, red, blue. We're all people. We all have the same basic needs. And honestly, when you get down to it, we have the same basic wants. And George Washington, not to get political, but George Washington said the biggest problem in America was that we started parties, and he did not like that because he knew
Really?
that that would cause
I think
division.
Thomas Jefferson had a little different opinion on that.
Well, I mean, every political
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
person
He
had
was,
different views,
yeah,
but
yeah.
George Washington was probably one of the ones that was a purist that really wanted
Yeah.
to make this country something great.
Yeah. Let's go to our learning community. Don Gleason is CEO and president of Achieve New Heights. He is the #1 leadership and team builder that I know, and he's been featured in several of our webinars. Hello, Don. And you
Good afternoon.
you build teams. And what's your thinking? Your teams have probably been very diverse. How you help people overcome the superficial differences in building a team?
I think Marjorie had so much of it right, and I just love what she was saying. I was back here cheering and hooping, hollering, and it's about respect. We have lost the ability to respect people today. It's about I'm right, you're wrong,
Yeah.
and it's not about let me see what you think, and it's okay
There's not much
it's okay
listening
if we
going on,
disagree.
is there? There's not much
Exactly.
listening going on.
Yep. And we think about everything from our perspective.
Yeah.
What I've really loved is I've talked to my kids who are all 3 millennials, and Marjorie, I don't know if I agree or disagree that we put too much time into it because we are different based upon the technology and so many other things. As we've come through, we look at things differently. And I think just recognizing that, like we're talking about, my kids as millennials see things so different than I do as a baby boomer.
Yeah.
And the Gen Z today, so sorry, Jim, I don't know if I am answering the question, but but the fact that we look at the kids today and say, why aren't you getting jobs at gas stations and restaurants and retail stores like we did? And they're like, because I have this iPhone thing and I can make a whole lot more money on that than you ever did. And you have to kind of go, you're right.
Hey, they're being real subtle, aren't they?
Yeah. So, but you're right. I mean, we're not listening. We're not asking questions. We're just telling people. And I think we've lost that perspective when we're trying to build a community. And I think that's, to me, that's the biggest part about being a leader is you got to talk to and understand your people.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Sorry.
John.
Go
It
ahead.
reminds me of that Native American proverb. You should never comment about somebody until you walked a mile in their moccasins.
Exactly right. Yeah, if you don't understand why they think the way they do, why they speak the way they do, the cultural differences across countries, even within the United States, think
Yeah.
about the regions, think about the ages, think about the ethnic groups, and we're all so different. And that's our strength, not our weakness.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid the white male, and I'm just going to point to ourselves, the white male has gotten so afraid of not being in charge that we're not listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you,
Anyway,
Dawn. And by the way, Dawn's coming back on June 26th, and I think you're going to like this topic. Bosses from hell. We've all been there, right?
all had them. Yep.
Yeah. And he's going to tell us how to cope with that. Marjorie, let's go back to you. Okay. Unfortunately, diplomacy is going to fail. But how can we prevent cultural diplomacy from happening? How can we prevent the failure of cultural diplomacy?
Well, a lot of it's global cultural awareness. And when I say that, you have to understand it is okay to not like someone. It is okay to not believe what somebody else believes. The most important thing, though, is to respect. And it's exactly what Don was saying. Respect is all we really need, and that it emphasizes the importance of building the cooperation among individuals. When we have that respect, and again, we can agree with their differences.
Yeah.
In my book, I say connect through our differences. That's exactly what it is, because regarding whatever the differences are, we can create an environment where dialogue and collaboration thrive, which promotes the inclusivity and the diversity and social cohesion. But this is the only way we can come to a peaceful and interconnected world,
Okay.
because our world has gotten much smaller.
Yeah. I want to push you a little further on that. You said it's okay. I don't like you. I don't
Yeah.
believe in what you believe in. Yet, how is it possible for me to respect you? I don't like you. I don't believe in what you believe in. But how is it possible for me to respect you?
So it's a matter of agreeing to disagree. When diplomacy fails, it can lead to misunderstanding, conflicts, even wars between nations. We see this today. But to prevent it, you have to prioritize dialogue, empathy, and collaboration. Now, that can be tough. It can be frustrating, and it can seem like it's not going to work, but you can't give up. And it's building trust and developing mutual respect. And when I say building trust, what I mean by that is saying this other person that I'm not agreeing with also lives on the planet Earth.
Yeah.
They believe in something totally different from me. They desire something totally different. I have to find the way to connect with them that we can both agree on something. And eventually, those agreements, those perspectives are key to maintaining a diplomatic atmosphere and keep conflicts from escalating.
Yeah. Yeah. Randa, let's go back I'm going back to the millennial side of my brain. Do you have another question?
Always. I'm curious about, what do you know about how other nations handle DEI issues? It's been such a big topic, I feel like, and one that's argued about frequently too. So I'm very curious how other places are handling that conversation, or if they're not having it the same way.
Well, life is very complex right now, and they all handle it differently, by the way. There really is no certain way any of them are handling it, except for, I guess, really just taking a deep breath and saying, where do we go from here? I think the approach to what we see going on right now is that there is no set pattern. It's kind of like, what do we need to do to practice the techniques to maintain peace and extend the patience of dealing with different countries and people, which, by the way, we've never had to do that as much as we do now. There was an ocean between us, which, by the way, there's still that ocean, but it doesn't separate us anymore because we're so connected through the internet. So I guess the answer is there is no set way. It's just a matter, and every country's handling it differently.
What are the easiest and quickest ways to open the door to people of different cultures?
Yeah, so the easiest and quickest way to open the door of people of any culture is to include genuine curiosity. Like when I saw the sheik and I said, I'm just asking about your culture. I really was. I just found it an interesting culture and wanted to know more, but actively listening, being open-minded, simple gestures, and this is the best one, smile.
Hmm.
Have
Hey,
your
repeat that.
body open.
Repeat that.
Smiling is the number one universal communicator. When you go up to someone in any country and you don't know their language and you don't know their culture, smile.
Hmm.
You're being open. It opens up your body awareness to them and them to you. And a smile can say 1,000 words. It's hi. I'm
Wow.
here to say hello. But it can bridge cultural gaps. It can develop connections. So smiling is the best way.
As you know, social media continues to explode and become more prominent in our lives day by day. But you say it can be a two-edged sword by both dividing and uniting us. Explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, social media can be a connector and it can be a disconnector. So the platforms on social media often serve as arenas where individuals seek validation, acceptance, and a sense of belonging. Now, in their quest to fit in, people may ignore and downplay, and this is where the problem comes in, red flags, warning signs or indicators of potential problems, kind of their perceived social status. An example is you joined a group, let's say on Facebook. They think like you, they seem to like you, they're reacting just like you do to certain things, and you feel accepted, and now you're part of a group. You may even meet them outside of a social media stance, have lunch with them. But then suddenly a red flag stands up. They believe in something you don't believe in, and you realize that that's wrong. That's when you have to understand. And studies have shown, even when people see these red flags and they become a parent, they find themselves unsure of how to navigate that situation, and they don't disengage from the unhealthy dynamics because they think maybe it's me. I joined this group, they accepted me, so maybe it's me. They're saying things I don't like. Some of it's really nasty, and I don't believe that, but maybe I'm looking at it wrong. And they found that people actually, and this is where you see a lot of things in society over all these years where people do things that they typically know aren't true. You have to stay true to yourself. You have to be smart, think about it, take a step back. If you don't like what you see, take a step back. Don't join in with this. You know what's right. You know what's wrong.
Well, I'm afraid that for all its value, people will put things on social media that they would never say face to face to someone.
Well, yes. And also keep in mind, it's easy to do that. You have a screen in front of you. I like on this, there was a show on Sheldon, young Sheldon, and he says to his sister, I can't believe how mean some of the people are being, on the computer. And his sister says, so answer back. You can be mean too. You're just on a screen. They can't get you. And he says, yeah, you're right. And then he's, right, whatever it was. And it's the same thing. People don't realize that, first of all, their words have meanings. Their words can affect you. Their words have emotional outcomes. And you gotta think that those words are there forever. You can delete something, but if somebody's already captured that, it never goes away. Best thing is what you learned when you were a little kid. Be nice. If you can't say something nice, don't say it.
Our mothers were right, weren't they?
Yeah, basic intuitions.
Hey, life has never been so complex, complicated, and challenging. Could you tell us what is in your survival kit life in 2024?
Well, essential tools and practices to navigate the complexity and challenges of modern life would encompass, I guess, mindfulness techniques, resilience building strategies, self-care practices, community support systems, things that we can thrive in the face of adversity. Again, it's a rough world out there right now, rougher than it's ever been, more divided than it's ever been, but that doesn't mean we can't make it work. I firmly believe in the human experience, and you just have to stay strong to yourself. And again, you just have to be able to support what's right and what's wrong.
Hey, one of your daily routines is the prayer of tea. Could you share that and tell us its meaning?
Well, the prayer of the tea is a mindful ritual. It involves preparing and savoring tea, or it could be coffee or hot water, with awareness and gratitude. It's important because it promotes mindfulness, relaxation, and appreciation for the present moment. Through the practice, you can cultivate a deeper connection with yourself and with others and the world around us. And look, when you get up in the morning, it can be a lot of anxiety. What do I have to do? How am I going to do it? How am I going to get it all done? But breathing in the hot liquid, whether it's tea, coffee, or just hot water, it actually take 3 deep breaths, and that steam will actually lower that. And then you just and I have a little saying that I do, but you can do anything you want. I do an affirmation. Thank you, God, for the flowers, trees, birds, and bees. Thank you, God, for the clouds that I see. Thank you, God, for the ability to be me. And thank you, God, for the opportunity to be the best that I can be. And actually, I know it sounds corny, but what it really does, it just affirms in your mind, you're going to go out and have the best day that you possibly can. And that's what it's all about.
I love it. I love it. Hey, you highlight the circles that are in our life. Explain, what are the circles in our life?
The circles in our life represent different aspects or domains such as family, work, health, hobbies, relationships. Now, they symbolize the interconnectedness of these areas, but honestly, it balances harmony and, fulfilling life. If you just have one circle, you're going to be very frustrated because sometimes not every circle works. You might be having a problem in one area, and the circles allow you to go to another area, which is a full circle.
Yeah. Yeah. Randa, how about let's hear from a millennial?
I have one other question that I wanted to ask you about. And it's come up before. I think sometimes that my generation and younger, we feel a little disconnected from big traditional businesses, whether it's corporate or nonprofit companies. What do you know about how other nations compare with the US in the engagement of the younger generations? It's such a big conversation every time I talk about fundraising with someone. I'm curious about your perspective.
As far as going in different countries, the biggest differences are, I guess, traveling, the difference, convenience, structure, guidance, the pre-accommodations, the problems that you can encounter. But I think it's different. I would say the best thing you can do is to have no expectations. Go in with a smile and realize that, and I've been on so many different places where everything did go wrong, but yet it didn't go wrong.
What do you
I'll
mean
give
by
you one
that?
example.
Hey, what do you mean
I
by
was in
that?
Japan, a great example, and we were looking for some place to eat after touring the government center, and we were looking and looking and finally found a place. And I saw this group of people in the other end of the room, and I thought, I wonder if I can just go in there because there seems like something going on. And I asked, I guess it would be the maitre d', and he said, "Oh, that's the prime minister." I said, "Really?" I said, and I'm getting like, I want to go meet him. And he goes, I said, "Can you introduce me?" And he said, "Well, I can't go over there, but you could try." I said, "Okay." So I again, perfect example. This wasn't planned, and it was actually something that had gone wrong that I made hugely right because I was so excited. I went over to him and I said, "Hi." Now, I did know a little Japanese. You have to know some words like hello, goodbye, where's the bathroom, thank you. So I went konnichiwa, and I knew that, you have to bow. And immediately I was able to get his response with a big smile and said,
Hmm.
I said, I'm from America. And he's like, yeah, I know. How do you like it here? And I said, arigato, which means thank you. And I said, I love it here. And he was so nice and so pleasant. And I remember thinking, if nothing else went right, the rest of the trip, I don't care. This was so special because he understood and greeted me from another part of the world as if I belonged there. And you see how important that is because, like I said, we only have one world, and where we live
That's
is
a leader,
different.
by the way. To me, that's a leader. That's a leader.
Yeah, it was a real amazing experience. And that's my example when you travel. I hope that answers the question right. But it just, you have to go in with no expectations and you will get the apps. Oh, I have one more like that too, Jim. I
Okay,
was
go
in
ahead,
Italy.
please.
I got lost, really lost, when I'm always getting lost. But I found this lady that looked like she knew what she was doing. And I said, Hi, I'm lost. I was in Rome. And she said, she was the Secretary of State of Education. I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Again, a great experience I was able to make from being lost. But those are the things that happen when you travel. Just don't expect anything and you will get so much more.
Randa, I think we should take some clues here. If you see a prime minister, walk up and say howdy.
Say hello. I
Hey,
will.
Marjorie, in your book, you introduce so many profound concepts. Another one is called the mind, body, spirit, computer. Help us understand what you mean by that.
Um, so computer yoga is something that I kind of started. And what it is, it's designed to integrate movement into your daily life. We all sit at the computer way too long.
Yeah,
Um, we've got to move because our natural body needs to move. Sitting is not natural. Now, a
yeah.
really great example, what you can do is put a bottle of water next to the computer and drink it, as you're working. But what's going to happen? It's going to make you have to get up and go to the bathroom.
It's
So,
also going to hydrate you, which every doctor says hydrate, hydrate, and hydrate.
yeah. But the movement part, we all get so integrated into our work that we sometimes forget to get up. And you can do all sorts of stretches right there while you're in front of your computer. And that's what you have to remember to do.
Can you demonstrate something?
Sure. I mean, if you're sitting at the computer and you're kind of feeling antsy, like you've been there for
Yeah.
a long time, but you've got to get more work done, you're working on an email. There are a lot of things you can do, starting with a stretch with your eyes. Go to the right, go to the left, go up, go down, or your neck. Go to the right, go to the left, look down, look up. You can do things with your arms where I know you can't really see what I'm doing, but circling your
Yeah.
arms back and forth. Any kind of a stretch or stretching out your legs, going up and down with your leg and twisting your foot, back and forth. It's movement. And that's the most natural thing for our body.
Yeah. That is really great advice. Marjorie, I'm jealous of you because you've achieved so much during your life. And one of your proudest accomplishments is the founding of America Connected. Could you tell us about America Connected, its mission, its vision, and its values?
America, a lot of things going on in the world that was really disappointing at the time, with a lot of division and a lot of nastiness. And I started a nonprofit that was dedicated to bringing global cultural awareness and connecting nations and people closer around the world by promoting understanding, respect, and collaboration. And it's a vision where diverse cultures connect and thrive together. It doesn't mean that they have to be like us or we have to be like them, but we bridge the divides and build a more united world.
Okay, this one is very practical for people in our audience who are thinking about visiting other countries. They're way behind you. Say you've been to 12, they've been to 0. What is your advice on how they should decide where to go?
Well, first of all, consider your interests, your budget, your travel goals, and research the destinations of the cultural experience, safety, and accessibility. Example, Japan's one of the safest places you can go. That's just one example, but start with a country also that's known for being tourist friendly and offering diverse attractions to ensure, a memorable and manageable first trip. Also, again, go in with no expectations. When you travel internationally, a lot can go wrong, but think of it as an adventure. And I guarantee you, every person you will encounter will be more than happy to help you.
Mm, mm. Hey, what is the difference between traveling on your own and being part of an organized group?
A lot, actually. Traveling with an organized group, it offers a lot of convenience, structure, expert guidance. It includes prearranged transportation,
But does it mean you have to get
accommodation.
up real early in the morning?
Um, well, depending on the trip that you pick, and they include the activities. But in contrast, traveling on your own provides greater flexibility,
Yeah, yeah.
personal freedom, the opportunity to create a more customized itinerary based on your needs and interests. But there's a lot of perks to the group. Another example, I was in, I was in Israel and I got lost again. And I was actually in a church and they did not speak English in this particular church. Actually, it was a mosque and they didn't speak English. What they spoke was Spanish that I had in common. I speak Spanish. So I I was like crying because I was younger. This is a while ago, and I thought, oh no, I'll never find my group again. And we were supposed to have buddies, and when you went to the bathroom, your buddy was supposed to say someone's, but my buddy forgot. So, anyways, here I am all alone, and I didn't speak any language but the Spanish I was able to speak to the monk in Spanish, and he actually was able to, track my group down. And again, being in a group, the bus came back for me. Thank goodness, right? And but it's kind of scary when you get lost.
Yeah, yeah.
So, that's an advantage of a group. If had not been with a group, I just would have had to find my way back, which I would have. I mean, I've learned because I get lost. I get lost all the time because I enjoy where I'm at so much and I want to experience where I'm at, and I walk everywhere when I travel. That's how I get lost. But it's a good thing. You meet so many amazing people and you're going off the beaten track, but you do
You
have
might
to be
even
able
run into
to.
a prime minister, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's more enjoyable, but again, it depends on your temperature as to how much stress you can expect.
Marjorie, this is a question I like to ask guests who I really think are deep thinkers, and I certainly put you in that category. If you could travel back in time, now you're pretty amazing, but I don't know if you could do that. But if you could travel back in time, what advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
Thank you for your kind words, Jim. You know, I've had the privilege of achieving many milestones, but there's many more to strive for. One significant item on my bucket list is to expand the reach of America Connected even further. I envision establishing more cultural exchange programs, virtual schools worldwide, and it's to promote global cultural awareness and understanding. I'm passionate about writing more books that inspire and empower individuals to connect across cultural boundaries. My goal is to continue a world where our differences are celebrated and used as a foundation for unity and collaboration. Our world has changed so much. It has changed so fast. The pandemic really, sped this up,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's an exciting, great world, and we all can be a part of it. We just have to learn to respect each other.
that's a big word, isn't it? RESPECT,
Yeah.
respect. This has been a very rich and fascinating hour. And thank you, Marjorie, for being yourself. I know how hard you work every day so you can share your wisdom, your vision, your insights with others. Let me ask you a question. If we want to buy your book, how do we go out and get Connect Diplomacy?
Well, Connect Diplomacy is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And I also just finished publishing Carrie's Gold in Time for the Olympics, also on Amazon and Barnes and
Well,
Noble.
take 1 minute. We only have much time, but Carrie's Gold is very different than Connect Diplomacy. Take a minute to tell us about Carrie's Gold.
They're actually very similar, believe it or not.
Really?
Well, Carrie's Gold is a gymnastic book for children. Obviously, that's different. But it actually connects each other because in Carrie's Gold, the gymnast Carrie wants to be able to win a gold medal and go to
Yeah.
the Olympics. The Olympics is all about connecting with each other in our countries and our world. And so she learns how to connect in order to get, and she works really hard at this to persevere and get to the part where she can connect. And I won't tell you the end of the story. You have to read it for
Yeah.
yourself. But it's all about connecting, and we all have to connect with each other one way or the other.
And by the way, is Carrie's Gold also on Amazon?
Yes, Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Okay, great. Well, listen, as usual, the time just flew by. This is what we're going to do. We are going to post some of her major points on LinkedIn and Facebook, and which you can share with colleagues and others. But also we expect to have more viewers. Our producer, John Largent, who is always carry us through the day. He's CEO of Largent Media. Thank you, John. He does a special spin dry editing, and we will post a recording of this wonderful hour. Will be on Facebook and LinkedIn tomorrow morning. And again, Marjorie, I think one of the best days of my life is when you reached up on the phone and called me, and we have begun a great partnership and friendship. And thank you again for the vision, the leadership, and the commitment to excellence that you provide and live every day.
Thank
And
you,
we'll be
Jim, so
coming
much.
back. We'll be coming back in just 1 week. My sister, Barbara Eskin, who's in Boston, Massachusetts, is going to share her knowledge of computers, what to do, what not to do. And we invite you to try to stump the Eskins, okay? So that will be next Wednesday on June 5th. And Randa will be in a new job, but she'll be joining us too. And then we have Laura Fredericks, who's probably the most respected fundraising expert on the planet, on June 12th. And then Don Gleason, who we met a little earlier, is going to help us on June 26th to cope with bosses from hell. So again, thank you so much, Marjorie. Thank you, Randa. Thank you, John. And thank you to our learning community. And again, thank you for all your work in helping touch, improve, and save more lives. You're the whole reason we do what we do. So everyone be well, and we'll see you 1 week from now on June 5th, and we'll be talking about computers with my sister. So we'll see you in a week. Marjorie, great.